All right. Excuse me. Just gonna wait just a moment, give people an opportunity to come in. All right. So, good afternoon. Peace and blessings, love, light, truth and power, prosperity, health and wealth. May they be available for all of us on today. So, today is the 30th of May, 2020. I'm not exactly sure why I always give the dates, but today's the 30th of May, 2020. I'm Royce Fletcher Thomason, and I am thankful to be able to come on YouTube and Facebook and everywhere else that we end up being broadcast to share with you from what's been uh, bestowed upon me, what's been put inside of me to be able to share. And I'm thankful for the opportunity to be able to do that every time I get an opportunity to do so. I will give you a little bit of background. So, while I was in college, I ended up accepting the call to ministry. I ended up being licensed for ministry, going to seminary, transferring to another seminary, ultimately being invited to leave, been committed on a excuse me, on a spiritual journey. And that journey has unfolded in some interesting ways, has taken some interesting twists and turns along the way, as I'm sure that your journey has taken some interesting twists and turns along the way. And I'm thankful for the place that I am now. But the way that things have unfolded for me is that I am a soul who who many years ago accepted a call to ministry. That was, let's see, 25 years ago, I guess. Yeah, 25 years ago. And I've been on a journey that has been a little bit of a non-traditional route, and the form that the ministry that guys had me to be operating in has definitely been something a little bit other than traditional. So many of you who show up for the lives, who've done training with me, who've caught videos that I've posted and such, know me to operate in the realm of healing, and that's one of the beautiful things that a space that I operate in, a space that I'm blessed to serve in, and a space that I have really seen the beauty and the power of God manifest in some really transformative ways, not only in my life, but in the lives of so many people around the world. And and I believe there's a beauty in that. Looks like I need to do some self-healing for wherever this stuff is that seems to want to pop up in my throat when I go to speak. Anyway, so some of you all know the story, some of you don't. But the way the things have unfolded for me is, after uh, situation with seminary. I ended up back in my hometown of Michigan, and at that time ended up starting a ministry. Again, a bit of a non-traditional ministry to a degree. Um, Really kind of an interfaith ministry in a way. Um, and somewhere along that journey, um, God put me in a position of really being able to access, put me in a position of encountering some teachers and things, and really being able to access healing, understand the nature of sickness and disease, and also the nature of healing and how to bring that about, how to manifest that um, very rapidly beyond all kinds of different conditions, sicknesses, diseases. Um, and you know, if you've seen some of my videos, you may have heard me share that I've been blessed to share this with people all over the world, of all different cultures, ethnic backgrounds, religious backgrounds, belief systems, political affiliations, um, philosophies, sexual orientations, financial status, levels of education, all these things that we really as humans look to judge other people based upon, or to create this sense of separateness, us versus them, all those things, right? And I've been blessed to be able to train people from all of those different backgrounds and many more that I haven't even shared right now, in terms of healing, healing, and being able to manifest healing on the spot for people in powerful and profound ways. And so for me, as you may have heard me say before, I know that a lot of people are suffering. I know people don't have to suffer. I have compassion for people who are suffering. And if I have an opportunity to, to help people and that are open and they're receptive, then I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to do that, to support people in that way, because I know that it's not something that a person has to learn to live with. It's not. It just isn't. Pain isn't something that a person should ever have as something they perceive to be a life sentence. That is a lie. That is not true. I know this because I've seen people who've been in pain for decades from all kinds of different situations, who tried everything under the sun and those things didn't work. And after spending a little bit of time together, pain was gone. I know that people don't have to suffer with that. And same with all different types of sicknesses and diseases. Okay, I've seen so many things happen. And so, yeah, I know that there's things that are available. There are possibilities that are available beyond what we typically might learn about in just our mainstream interactions of dealing with life, and those who are really kind of tapped into the systems of this world, so to speak, right? And so on a certain level, I know that there are other things that are available beyond what the doctors know. And I'm thankful to be able to share that for people's well-being, right? That's on one level. Another level is, like I said before, I'm a minister. I'm a soul who is concerned about the well-being of people's souls, right? Their ultimate well-being, not just the physical body, which is the temple, and definitely should be honored. And maybe I might need to make this a 6-week series. But anyway, I believe that it's important to honor that temple. But it's also important, and even beyond that, I won't say but, even beyond that, I really feel like it's crucial that we honor the most sacred aspects of our beingness, right? And I just believe that if people are too overly caught up with what's going on in their body, particularly if it's racked with pain and sickness, then that can be a distraction from focusing on the deeper, even more meaningful things, the things of spirit, right? Of spiritual things, okay? Our relationship with God and that influencing how we interact with life itself and all of it, the forms that it takes on, including our relationships with people and the earth and all sorts of things, right? And so that's another level in terms of the healing. But even on another level, in addition to that, on a global peace mission, because like I said, train people in from all different types of backgrounds who look different, think different, believe different, love differently from one another. And the healing manifests just as effectively regardless. And so if a a person who comes from a totally different background, totally different belief system, all of these different things can manifest healing on the behalf of somebody on a different part of the world, in a different part of the world, totally different circumstances, could actually strongly dislike people that are like this other person over here. And yet the healing is still made manifest. And what's the essence of that healing is always God's love, right? And so all of these areas where we see ourselves separate from each other and we're going at each other, okay, whether it's a political thing or whether it's our religious thing or whether it's our status thing or whatever that thing is, whatever that ism is, that serves as this great expanse between us and other people that keeps us from really dwelling in a state of harmony with our brothers and sisters in creation, right? That's something that really plagues our society, our global situation, really, amongst all peoples of the earth. And the more that we can actually tap into that oneness, rooted in the spirit of love, the more genuine, authentic healing takes place on the planet on a collective level. You see what I'm saying? You're appreciating what I'm saying right now? And so that is the greater goal, that the kingdom of heaven might be downloaded onto the earth, that the people of the earth might be able to exist within ourselves, with one another, and the earth itself in a spirit of love, of mutual respect and appreciation, grace, harmony, and peace. That's a deeper goal, right? Right? Now, what I want to share with you is that in the context of that, I deal with a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds. And I really do believe that everybody is where they are for a reason. Everybody, every soul who came into the experience of being a human, in other words, having some stuff that's got some kind of texture and color and stuff to it, then there's some stuff that we've got to work out, right? There's some stuff that we've got to work out. And the reality is that in my efforts to try to make sure that we all understand, despite where we come from in these different places and the different people that I might minister to in whatever form, okay, whether that's counseling or whether that's healing or any other way, okay. Again, people from very different backgrounds, very different belief systems. I interact with people and very comfortably with some people who are way out there. Then I interact with some people who are definitely not out there at all, really. And in some way serve kind of as a bridge between the two. But one of the things that I do want to make clear, and that can sometimes be lost, is I'm focusing on more of a collective, is that a very true and real reality is that my foundation is in Yeshua HaMashiach, Yeshua, which is really Hebrew, which we translate into English is Jesus the Christ. And yes, there are a lot of conscious folks that I interact with. A lot of folks who say there are people who say that he didn't exist. He couldn't have existed because there was no J in Hebrew. There was no J in Greek. And that is very true. His mama did not call him Jesus. That's part of the nature of this Western mentality that we have of this air of superiority, particularly amongst people who are English-speaking peoples, right? It's true. There is no letter J in Hebrew. There's no J in Greek. There's no J in Aramaic, which he spoke. You know, you look it up, and the name was actually Jesus. Bring it down to Latin and the language that derived from Latin, you get Jesus. You put that in English, and it's Jesus, right? Just like we say Jerusalem. The reality is that there is not a place on earth called Jerusalem because, again, there's no J in the Hebrew language. The actual name of the place is Yerushalayim. But for English-speaking people, Yerushalayim is difficult to pronounce, so we just say Jerusalem, right? And that is a reality. But anyway, we're kicking off today with a 5-week series on honor, a 5-week series on honor, and we're going to be delving into that in a variety of different ways throughout the span of these next 5. And like I said earlier, might add a piece on honoring your body. So it may end up being actually a 6-week series. We'll explore that and see how I'm kind of getting the sense now that is actually something that's going to happen. So there may even be more that may be added onto this series. I'll have to see. This is something that I just kind of got just a moment ago, and just today in terms of this doing this series in general. But today's focus is going to be on honoring Yeshua, because that's not something that I want people to miss in terms of something that I'm wanting to convey, something that I'm wanting to share. Okay. Because I believe that's important, and I believe that it's important that I share that. There are a lot of strengths that I believe that God has blessed us all. There are some areas that I believe God has blessed me in particular. There's some things that I tend to talk about more than others, and certainly being inclusive is one of those things. My God, that's definitely one of those things. At the same time, I do want to make sure that I'm not holding back in certain other areas as well. And I'm telling you, I personally can tell you without any shadow of a doubt that I would not be in this place where I am now if it were not for Yeshua. Without any question, I can tell you that. Okay? Without any question, without any doubt in my mind, I know this to be true. Today is May 30th. Yesterday marked 31 years from the day that I was actually baptized. And no, I'm not in the same place that I was in when I was younger. I'm not in the same place, spiritually, even belief system wise, that I was 31 years ago in 1994. Yes, I'm in a different place now than I was then, but in essence, what was going on then is still very, very, very much a part of me. When I was a senior in high school, my mother gave me a Bible. It was really my first Bible. I would honor that book, wouldn't put anything on top of it. Wouldn't let anybody else put anything on top of it. But I also wouldn't open it up and read it. The reason I wouldn't open up and read it was because whenever I did, there was something that was speaking to me to either start doing something that I didn't want to do or stop doing something that I wanted to continue to do. So I was resistant. Okay, I was resistant for a little while. I was resistant. As time would go on, some of that resistance would wear off. Some of that resistance would wear off. I started actually opening it up and reading it more. It was when I was in college that a lot of people were sent to me. I really believe that God sent a lot of people to me to talk to me about. Now they weren't saying Yeshua; they were saying Jesus. A lot of people, and it was undeniable. It was like people would be walking another direction, and then it would be like God just turned them, directed them right towards me. Real talk, I felt a little uncomfortable with it at the time. And that was really the resistance in me that was feeling uncomfortable with that at that time. I would end up starting to read it. In fact, I got to the point where I actually started highlighting and underlining the stuff in it because it wasn't really the book that needed to be revered so much as there were truths present in it that God wanted to reach me through, that I needed to expose myself to. And just like these people were sent in my path to talk with me about Yeshua, about Jesus many years ago, perhaps on this day, May 30th, 2021, God has led you here for me to talk to you about him. Okay. And so things would unfold in my path at that time that were significant for me. A lot of it dealt with pain and some stuff not working out. This is just my truth, you know. Some of you will hear this, some of you won't, some will stick around, some of you won't. But I'm just going to share as I'm feeling led to share. Things came to a point in 1994 where I saw that there had been a number of things that I placed before God that were taken out of my life. Okay, they were just kind of removed from my life. And I know, and even my take on scripture isn't that of most people. I'll own that. You know, some people will say, and it's in there, but you got to really kind of see a little bit deeper about God being a jealous God. God isn't subject to lower level emotions in that context. But I do believe a reality is that we were designed in such a way that the most significant aspect of our beingness is that which is sacred, our spiritual beingness. That sacred spark of God that exists within us is our essence. And the more that we honor that, the better things ultimately unfold for us. The less we honor it, the worse things unfold for us. Just like if you were to try to drive a car with gasoline that wasn't really meant for it. Okay, this is just a matter of operating according to the divine design by which we were actually created, right? Okay, and so I saw that in my life at that time, these several things that I had placed before God basically went away. I don't feel like that was a punishment. I just think there was a natural consequence of decisions that I made, ultimately, ways in which I abandoned myself, real talk. And then that manifested as feeling like I lost these various things. But the truth is that that actually led me to grasp, to take hold of, and embrace what I was really needing to embrace all along. And the situation was such, at the time I was going to a Baptist church called Hartford Memorial Baptist Church in Detroit. Pastor Charles Adams was the pastor. Okay. And it was April 17th, 1994. Now, I was in college at the time, but things didn't work out for me I ended up having to go home that semester. Wasn't able to get registered, ended up having to go home. And I didn't actually go home until the beginning of April, which was almost the end of the school year anyway. But anyway, as things unfolded, Sunday, April 17th, 1994. I was there, and Pastor Adams preached a sermon that I would hear him preach a couple other times on future occasions, called Drunk on the Eve of Reconstruction. And I won't get into all of the details of that message right now, but it spoke to me, and I felt something in my heart, in my spirit, being called to give my life to God. And I remained glued to my seat. In the Baptist church, the way they do it is the doors of the church are open. They invite you to come forward up to the front of the church and give your hand to the preacher and your heart to God, basically, is the way that the invitation was extended at that time. And so I didn't do it at that time. I felt a little nervous, but that Tuesday, I knew that I was going to that following Sunday. And I just had this strong sense within me at that time to give my life to the one who had given his life for me. And that was something that was just very, very strong on me, to give my life to the one who had given his life for me. And that following Sunday, April 24th, 1994, my pastor, who did his seminary work at Harvard Divinity School. In fact, they called him the Harvard Hooper. He's very erudite and very intellectual, but he also, would hoop, as is sometimes done in the Black tradition of preaching. And that Sunday, he had been away at this conference that week, but he came back. He spoke that Sunday, the 24th of April, and he preached about this man who was blind, and Jesus did a healing on this man who was blind. But the healing took, but only partially so. It only partially took. He said, I see, but men look like trees walking. And he needed that second touch. And upon that second touch, the man was able to see clearly. His healing was made complete. Okay. And so that message was entitled "The Second Touch." It's amazing. I remember the 31, it was impactful because 31 years later, it's still very, very clear in my recollection. And that was the day that I ended up giving my life to the Lord. And so um, when I received my second touch, that Sunday was my second touch. April 24th was my second touch. And so I ended up um, uh, going back to school the next semester. Every semester that I was in college prior to that, there were 2 times I wasn't able to get in school. There were 2 semesters I wasn't able to get in school. But every semester prior to that I was able to get in school, I got registered after late registration was over. I wasn't even supposed to be able to get registered. Every semester, it was not during the registration period, not only not during the late registration period, but it was after the cutoff point that you could get registered. Every single semester. That following semester, when I came back to school, I got registered during regular registration and didn't. And I went to an HBCU, a historically black college or university. Tuskegee University is where I went to school. And at the time that I was there, registration was not a simple process. It was something that took a long time, standing in a lot of really long lines. Any people who are out there who went to an HBCU in that era, I'm sure you can relate to that. Especially if you went to Tuskegee. I know that you can relate to that. Those who didn't have to go through that experience, I'm happy for you. But that was definitely part of my experience. But that semester, not only did I get registered during regular registration, but I got registered without having to wait in any long line. And I still didn't actually have the money to show for it. I had a letter from my grandfather, rest his soul, John A. Hall, promising that the money was coming. There's a scholarship from his company. Miss you, Grandpa. And so I was able to get in school, and things started kind of coming together in other ways. But I still, I wasn't even wrestling with the call to ministry at that time. That summer, I was studying for the LSAT, the law school admissions test. I had a dual major in College of Finance and Political Science. And I was going to be an entrepreneur and a civil rights attorney. That was my take. So I was studying for the law school admissions test, the LSAT, which is required to get into law school. I was planning on doing a joint JD MBA program. A JD, or Juris Doctorate degree, is the degree that you get from law school. And I was planning on doing a dual degree program to get an MBA, a Master's of Business Administration. It was during that summer I got the word from God, that's not the plan. Like, okay, I didn't know exactly what that plan would be until a couple years later. My last semester in college was when I actually ended up accepting the call to ministry. I won't give you all the details of that right now, but I ended up accepting the call to ministry. And there was a peace that came on me upon accepting that. There was a peace that came on me upon accepting that. I ended up being licensed for ministry, going away to seminary. And I knew before the first day of class that I would never look at the Bible in the same way again. There were things that I was being exposed to, things that were being revealed to me that were beyond what I had known previously. I started checking out a lot of things from the library. I started doing a lot of reading. My journey would end up unfolding that I would change schools to another school where my mentor was the president, actually the first Black president of this particular school. I would ultimately be invited to leave and then ultimately kicked out. Just wasn't a good fit. It wasn't that I was kicked out for immoral reasons or anything like that. It just simply wasn't a good fit. And so I ended up returning to Michigan for a weekend, which ended up turning into, that weekend ended up turning into 16 and a half years, as it were. And I don't want to digress too much, but end up starting a ministry. And I think that I was hurt. I know that I was hurt. I was kicked out of seminary. I'm a minister who was kicked out of seminary. I was disillusioned because to me, seminary is where people go to be trained on how to help empower people to have a deep, lasting relationship with God. And I knew that just before I got there, there was somebody who graduated 4.0 who was an atheist. I had a professor who told me it's very rare that we have referring to me, said it's very rare that we have somebody here that has profound spiritual experiences. And then he, thought about it for a second and said, it's like we never have that. And he wished me well on my journey and everything, but I was hurt, definitely, and a little bit wondering how I was going to go forth with this. I knew that there was a call to ministry. I saw what to me was a lot of hypocrisy, a lot of missing the mark, of not really getting the deeper things, the deeper spiritual things. Okay. Looking back at it, I have to recognize that there was, even though I felt like I had some exposure to a truth that they may not have necessarily been tapped into, I have to recognize that there was an arrogance on my part in terms of how I communicated that and how I went about that. Hey, Versandra, much love to you, my sister. And so anyway, at some point along this journey, right? At some point along this journey, I felt very strongly in my spirit God saying, I'm going to teach you how to heal people, right? And that was a language. Actually, that was even the context in which I met Versandra, who I see in the comments. Versandra, I was just looking at your book yesterday, Memoirs of a Homeless Healer. Yeah. Anyway, so on this journey, I ended up very deeply feeling God was telling me, I'm going to teach you how to heal people. And this was when this ministry was just getting off the ground. I was ultimately trying to try to share spare you some of those details. Ultimately, I ended up printing out some materials for the ministry, going to get them printed. And where I got them printed, there was this information on this Chinese doctor. And I really believe it was just divinely ordered for me to be placed in contact with it, to be there at that time for that associate, that printing associate, to present all this information of this one particular man to me. And I ended up doing some profound training in Chinese energetic medicine, basic, intermediate, and advanced levels of that. And started seeing a lot of medical miracles take place, okay? Started impacting a lot of people's lives, being a vessel through which a lot of people were blessed. And then I ended up being exposed to some other things that in terms of learning about the DNA and reprogramming the DNA and getting it to integrate in new ways, and some profound healings. I was able to help people experience some profound healings utilizing that. And then there's this prophecy that a time would come where I would need to make a decision to either keep doing it myself or to share with other people how to do it. And so I started doing self-healing to be able to develop and teach a methodology of healing. And I'm saying all this, but keep in mind that the theme that we're really dealing at is honoring Jesus, honoring Yeshua. And there are a lot of, in my journey, there have been a lot of healing arts that I've been exposed to. And I wasn't feeling led to train in those particular things, largely because of what I had seen in the Bible regarding Jesus and healing. And it's something that would very regular show up would be these two words, and immediately. And I somehow believed the truth in those words, that there were people who were being healed immediately from all types of things. And I own that there's some powerful healing that comes through me. Ultimately, I'm not the healer. God is the healer. I want to acknowledge that. And I've known of some powerful healers. I definitely have come across some powerful healers. I don't know any greater than Yeshua, though. I don't. I haven't met any greater than him. And I know that as in this journey of, I deal with folk, like I said, from all different backgrounds, all different religious backgrounds, star seeds and light workers, and folk who are out there on another dimension of existence, right? But I haven't seen any greater than Jesus, not as a healer, not as a teacher, not as any of it, not as any of it. And I don't always talk about that component. I don't always talk about that component. I don't always talk about that relationship that I personally have with him. The reality is that I deal with a lot of people who are broken from their experiences with church. And Jesus isn't the problem. Yeshua isn't the problem. It's the people who represent him, who so-called represent him, that turn people off, that make people not want to deal with Christianity. And I don't believe that Jesus was trying to start a religion. I just don't. And I do a lot of studies in world religion. I don't believe that any of them actually were setting out to start a new religion. Jesus was a Jew. Okay. He wasn't trying to get people to become some new religion called Christianity. He never used the term Christian himself. He said that, he was coming to help the lost children of Israel. Okay. He was coming to minister to folks who were just missing the mark, which is literally what the definition of sin is just missing the mark. He saw that showing up in so many ways. He saw people so caught up in the letter of the law that they were missing the spirit of the law. He saw people cruelly wanting to throw rocks at a woman until she died. How out cold is that? Hey, Melanie Ivy, how out cold is that? Because she slept with somebody that she wasn't married to. How many folk wouldn't be around now if they slept with somebody that they weren't married to? Phew, my goodness gracious. He took that as a teaching moment to point to the fact that we all fall short, that we all have some areas where we're missing the mark. And if we can get to a point where we can say that we truly don't have any of our own ish going on, then we can be the first to cast the stone. I mean, that's some like really revolutionary teaching. That's some really revolutionary teaching. And in a way, I'm a bit of a revolutionary. You know, I believe that I'm kind of out of the box to a large extent. I'm not as revolutionary as he was. I'm just considering the time that he was in. Okay, the time that he was in terms of what the government situation was like, in terms of what the religious situation was like. Such a trailblazer. Such a trailblazer. The reality is that he was dealing with people who were so blinded by so many things. They were so blinded by so many things, so caught up in external power struggles, so caught up in the letter of the law and missing the spirit of the law, so caught up in external things. And this goes from everybody, from the teachers of the law, the Sadducees and the Pharisees, to the people who were being ministered to, all of that. Okay. And I acknowledge that I don't really talk about them as much as I could, and I don't like to should on people. I don't talk about him as much as I believe it would be useful for me to. Okay. And a reality is that a lot of people have been turned off from him because of people who, like I said, represent him. There is a lot of hypocrisy in the church today. There is a lot of missing the mark. There is a lot of false teaching there, just like there was in his day. There's a lot of cases where people just are totally missing the point, are totally missing a lot of really key, significant things. But I want to say today, I am deeply thankful. I'm deeply thankful for Yeshua HaMashiach. I know that I would not be where I am if it was not for him. And I want to invite you, no matter where you are on your spiritual journey, no matter what religion you might identify with, or if you identify with any at all, or where you are in your path. And I believe that all of us are on a path. I believe that all of us are on a path that has served us in some capacity. I want to invite you, regardless of where you are on your path, where you are on your journey, regardless of what you think you know already, to enter into a relationship with him, a personal relationship with him. I believe with all the gusto in my being that there is power in that. That there is power in that goes beyond anything that I can really even begin to put in words. I deal with a lot of mystics. I deal with a lot of metaphysicians. I deal with a lot of star seeds. I deal with a lot of light workers. I deal with a lot of folks who use a lot of different terminology. Okay. I deal with a lot of people who see things in out of the box ways. The truth is, and that are empowered in a lot of ways. The truth is that the folks that have an intimate relationship with Jesus, with Yeshua, my genuine observation, and with some people this is not necessarily going to be popular, but my genuine observation is that those folks don't tend to have some of the same strongholds that a lot of others do. who are very committed on their spiritual path, who have a certain level of enlightenment. But there, I still see a block. I still see a block. And there are areas where I have come to see that block in me too. Yeah, that's just real talk. You know, as a minister coming up, dealing with this, there was this expectation that the preacher had to be perfect, that the preacher was a representative of how one was supposed to be. The reality is that the minister is human too. And one of the realities, and we're going to be dealing with, I don't remember if it's next week. I think it's next week, honoring your journey. We're going to be dealing with honoring yourself, honoring your truth. Father's Day, we're going to deal with honor thy father, but we're going to deal with honor your journey, honor your truth. The reality is, a lot of times it's easy for the minister, for the teacher, the spiritual teacher, out of a sense of expectation, to be perfect, to not let their vulnerability show, to not let their flaws or their shortcomings show. To a degree, I fell into that. To a degree, I'm going to just say it like it is. I fell into that as well. But like, what I've come to realize is that doesn't give the people the permission to acknowledge where they are. And then they put on airs to try to be something that they're not. They put on airs to try to show that they're better than they actually really feel themselves to be, right? And then that creates all kind of situations, okay? And so then everybody goes and puts on their best face. They put on this persona that things are better than they actually are. We see it in churches and other religious organizations. We see it amongst people who move in certain spiritual circles. We see it all over social media. My goodness, do we see it over social media? We see it in really those who are considered famous and that we look up to and stuff. And the reality is that we're all just people who are doing our best to walk this thing out in life to the best degree that we possibly can. That most of the time, most of us feel to a certain degree alone in that process. And so we try to fit in with whatever group of people kind of has some sense of resonance with where we are. And still, there are these masks that people are wearing because so few of us are afraid to really be vulnerable, to be authentic to where we really are. And I want to say today that for me in my own life, I'm saying time out for that. As a spiritual person, I used to always be trying to get it right, feeling like I had to earn something. I had to earn grace. I've had to earn love. How long has that been a part of my story? Okay. And I do believe that we should do loving things, but not in order to get love. There isn't anything that we can do to get God's love. It's just there. It's just there. It's not in the good things that we do. And that doesn't mean that we shouldn't aim to do good things. Certainly we should aim to be a light in the world. And even part of that is honoring our own shadows, honoring the fact that we have some shadows and that we need help. That we need help. I need help. I can't do it alone. Listen, I have been blessed to help thousands of people experience all kinds of medical miracles, and yet I still have my stuff. I'm a person who is all about love, and yet I've still been divorced twice. I can tell you it won't be a third time, though, because there's some stuff that I've had to recognize I can't do on my own, and I'm letting that go, and the arrogance that comes with thinking that I can. And shoot, I got some stuff going on right now that feels scary, honestly, but I'm gonna trust God in the process, and my relationship with Yeshua HaMashiach is so key to that. I was a healer when I met the first two people that I married, but that wasn't the difference maker. That wasn't what ended up working things out for me. I invite you to invite the presence of one whom I've known no greater than, Yeshua HaMashiach, into your heart and into your life. We are all both physical and divine. Just don't believe anybody's married the two more beautifully and mastered the thing more genuinely, fully than him. And if there's some wisdom we can take from that, I think that we'd be doing ourselves a disservice not to. Every day I speak the names of ancestors. I set out food in honor and memory of them. Oh, that's one of the weeks too, honoring the ancestors. Physically, I wouldn't be where I am if not for them. But there are a whole lot of other places that I really feel like I wouldn't be if it wasn't for Jesus, for Yeshua. And I really want to honor that. I want to honor that today and every day. And I invite you to do the same. I know I've done a lot of talking today. I didn't ask if anybody has anything going on with them in terms of wanting some healing to take place. We still are about offering both hope and healing, including physical healing. And yes, it can be manifest through the internet, because really this internet is just an outward expression of a technology that exists within the realm of spirit and that we're all connected through, right? So anybody have any pain or any area where you'd like some healing for or some support for, certainly more than happy to offer that. And if not, that's fine too. If you are interested, just let me know. By the way, I'm in the process of determining the next class in terms of healing. If you're interested, just reach out to me. Just DM me, Instagram or Facebook at Royce Fletcher Thomason, or Instagram at Transcending the Matrix. Either one, I'll see. Hopefully, if you don't hear back from me, just reach out again. Some of you may have more direct means to reach out to me. Feel free to do that too. That's probably an even better way. Anyway, I'm so thankful to have been able to be here with you today. As always, it's an honor to be able to do so. Thank you for stopping by. There are a lot of other things that you could have been doing this Sunday afternoon, especially with things opening up more and more. You can be out enjoying the warm weather and such. I appreciate this time that you've taken, that we have invested with one another in this space. I pray God's richest, deepest, most beautiful blessings upon you, that you will count yourselves worthy to receive those blessings and therefore not resist them, that you allow your cup to be filled to the point of running over. and that from that which runs over, that the people in your life, in your work life, in your personal life, those that you encounter in your daily living are blessed and impacted by it. Yeah, yeah. If you want to support what we're doing, there's a thing rolling around the bottom of the screen. Can do a Cash App, $ Royce F. Thomason. If you're needing prayer, healing, or anything of that nature, feel free to reach out to me. That's what I'm here for. In the spirit of love, I'm glad to offer that. I believe that all of us have been endowed with something, that God has placed certain things in each of us. Not everything has been placed in all of us to the same degree, or is at least manifest to the same degree. But there are certain things that are placed in all of us. And I'm in touch with those things that have been placed in me to support people and to be a blessing. And so I'm happy to do that. As a matter of fact, I'm not really happy if I'm not doing that, because I feel like that's so significantly tied to my purpose for being here. And really, that's part of the outward purpose. But really, truthfully, for all of us, part of our purpose for being here is for us to work our stuff out, to walk our journey and work our stuff out. And those things show up in different ways. All of us have our own backstory. And we're all called to live out this process of life in a way that ultimately works for us. Anyway, that wraps us up for today. I love you. And I look forward to seeing you soon.